Thank you so much. This is fantastic to be here in Potomac, but also just with so many amazing people in this room, people from my past with Brian and Tom who went to the same high school I did on Long Island a couple years after me. Hearing Dan and obviously what DC United's doing and Steve, what he's doing with Washington Spirit, and just thinking about how far the game has come in this country. Well, I played in the USL for the Wilmington Hammerheads, and I just remember, you know, we got like 3,000 fans a game, and we were outdrawing some MLS teams, right? And just to think how the game has changed. And I live in Oregon now, and I just remember when the Timbers went to MLS, and they were playing Chicago Fire, and one of my high school friends had played for Chicago, and so I got to go to the game because you couldn't get a seat, and I just remember sitting in the stands in Portland, and the fans sang the national anthem, and I had tears in my eyes, and I turned to my wife, and she's like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, "I can't believe this is soccer in the United States, and what it's doing now on the men's side, and what it's doing on the women's side is just incredible." And that all starts with all of us. So thank you as managers, between you and athletic directors, you have the most thankless jobs in the world, right? And for all you coaches, you know, the things that you do, right? I mean, the thing, we work with kids, it's public, it's emotional, we keep score, and yet something we say can stick with a kid for the rest of their life, and we don't get to pick and choose what they remember and what they don't. So thank you for everything you do. I want to start tonight with a little test. And so for those of you who've had a few cocktails, that's tough luck. But it's okay because my jokes will get funnier. And this is a psychological test. It's called the Stroop test. And this is one of the most often repeated and proven psychological tests ever. And what they say is that John Ridley Stroop hypothesized is that when you add interference, when you add cognitive interference, it slows down the physical reaction time of a task. So when we add mental interference to our athletes, they slow down physically. And I'm going to show you how. We're going to take the Stroop test together. It's a two-part test. So here's part one, right? And as a room, out loud, as fast as we can go, you're going to read all these words: green, yellow, purple, red, blue, yellow, all 4 lines. Since we're athletes and we're competitive, the record's 8.5 seconds, in case you want to try to win. Okay? Right? So when I say go out loud, as fast as we can go, my clock stops when the last person talking either passes out or gets the break. All right? Ready? On your marks. Get set. Go. That was pretty good. That was really good. You're way smarter than people in Raleigh 2 nights ago. Did anyone have like a person next to you like who's really loud, or they got a little bit ahead of you or something like that? Yeah, I see a couple people out there. So what happens when you when someone did that? You have to add like this little bit extra brain power, right? You got to focus a little more. You got to turn a little more energy to it, right? That's not the Stroop test. That's the Stroop test. All right. So here's part 2. Same. This guy's like, man, the 4th beer is killing me. Now instead, this is the same word, same font. Instead of reading the word, you have to say the color. So you have to say blue, red, green, blue, yellow, blue. If you're colorblind, you're exempt. All right, ready? Out loud as fast as we can go. On your marks, get set, go. This table gave up after the first yellow. Done. Honesty here, raise your hand if you quit. Yeah, look at that. Sometimes I really think that this is what it feels like for our kids when there's 2 coaches on one side and 37 on the other, right? Yelling instructions. And it slows down our physical reaction time of our task. This guy, Tim Galway, wrote a book years ago called The Inner Game of Tennis, and he said, performance is potential minus interference. How people play is their potential, their practice, their genetics, all these things, minus the things that interfere. And the single greatest thing that interferes is between their ears. Right? And so that's the environment that we create as coaches, and it's the environment that we can create as parents, and it's the environment that we create and foster as an organization, as a club, as a family. And the more of that interference that we can strip away, the better things are. And so what I want to talk about tonight is some of the things that I really think if we focus on these things, we can strip away more and more of this interference and get more kids playing and help them have a better time. So, I listened about a year ago to this interview with Jeff Bezos. You know, Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. So he's done okay for himself, right? And someone asked Jeff Bezos, they said, Jeff, how does Amazon stay ahead of the curve? How do you predict what's going to happen 10 years from now, right? What's going to be different so that you can, right, change and be ready for that? And Jeff Bezos says, you know, a lot of people ask me that question. He said, but it's not a really good question. He said, the question that people should ask me, and the one that they never do, is this: what's not going to change? Because if I know what's not going to change, then we can invest our time and our money and our people into those things. So he said, so Amazon, what are we known for, right? We have a lot of stuff, we have low prices, and we have fast shipping. He says, I can't imagine a world 10 years from now where someone's like, hey Jeff, love those low prices, but you know, can you have less stuff? Or hey Jeff, love those low prices, but I ordered it and it arrived 2 hours later. Can you slow it down? Right? So he said, if we know that those things are going to be the same 10 years from now, we can put our money there, we can put our people there, we can put our resources there. Now when we talk about sports, a lot of times we talk about all the things that are changing, and certainly in soccer we've undergone a lot of changes, age group changes, game size changes, all these sort of things. But I think if we take a step back and think as an organization, what's not going to change? What's similar to when we were kids playing, to the kids who are playing today, and when their kids are playing, what things aren't going to change? Because if we know what those are, and we can invest in those things, man, we can be ready for whatever changes come down the pipeline. And so I think there's really 3 things that don't change. Why kids play, what they want from all of us as coaches, and whether we like it or not, they have parents. Right? And those parents need to be engaged and educated and empowered. And so that's what I want to talk about tonight. So, why do kids play? It's fun, right? And sometimes I think we forget. I asked the board and the staff today at our workshop, I asked them, sometimes we think when kids say fun, we think it's fooling around and playing tag and not listening. But that's not what kids say is fun. There's a difference between, I like the word enjoyment rather than pleasure. And so I asked the staff this, and I'll ask all of you. Who has ever run a marathon? Show of hands. Okay, a couple of people. Why aren't you admitting it? Some people are like, oh God, I'm not going to make you run. Right? Okay, you run a marathon, right? Mile 20 to 26, 0 pleasure, right? But you can still enjoy running. Right? I ran one marathon, Chicago Marathon, on the final straightaway, Grant Park in Chicago. There's 45,000 people right there cheering for you, and I got passed by the person in the Philadelphia chicken costume. I'm done with those, right? Right? But you can still enjoy running. And so, when we think about sports and why kids play, they say, well, it's because it's fun. So then, we have to ask them, well, what's fun? And a woman from George Washington University named Amanda Visick did this. She did a big study, and she asked kids, why do you play? And they came up with, and they 9 out of 10 said fun. So she said, well, define fun, what's fun? And they came up with 81 characteristics of fun. trying your best, being treated with respect, getting playing time, playing well as a team, getting along with your teammates, exercising and being active. These are the things that make sports fun. Further down the list, winning, number 48. Now, I've coached, got to be 1,000 games. There's never a game where there was 47 things more important than did we win. But apparently it is for the kids sometimes, right? Now, competing is very important, but they get over those results really quickly. I remember my daughter, she's 13 now, she was like 10, and she was doing her first away soccer tournament in Portland, Oregon, and I flew in from a talk, and I'm just the dad, I'm sitting on the sideline, and they were really bad. They lose like 10-0. And I'm watching the game, and I'm totally embarrassed, and I'm angry, and the coach isn't doing anything. I'm like, what am I doing here? I should have just stayed in Colorado. And so the game ends, and I'm like, oh, but I got to be a good dad, and I got to be patient, and she's going to be so upset and angry. And game ends, she walks over afterwards with the teammates. I'm like, hey, Mag, how are you doing? She goes, Dad, the hotel has a pool. All right, fair enough, right? Let's go swim. Right? So we have to remember who's in front of us, right? Who's in front of us? Taking team pictures is dead last, just in case you're wondering. Let's get to wear funny socks or make a funny face, right? So that's why kids play, right? We talked about this today, that kids in sport are on one of two paths, sport for participation and sport for performance. And our club runs the gamut, right? We get kids who come in probably just for, more of them are maybe going down that performance path. A lot of times maybe not because they want to, but because maybe their parents want them to. As I said to the board today, everyone starts at sport for participation. No 5-year-old's like, come on coach, we need a tough session today. Like, let's get after it, right? But we have to be aware of what they want. And sport is always a balance of what kids want and what kids need. And even as they get older and they go on to high school level and college level and professional level, if we only give them what they need and we don't give them what they want, which is a competitive, organized, fun environment, which is positive team dynamics, which is positive coaching, then we're going to lose them, right? So we got to focus on that. Number 2, we have to focus on what they want from us, what they want from coaches. Now, we did a really in-depth workshop today on self-awareness, but we're going to do a little exercise here together talking about this. So on your table, there's sticky notes. So if everyone can grab like 5 sticky notes each, hopefully there's enough. There should be a pen for everyone as well. And what I'd like you to do is write down the 5 qualities of the best coach you ever had. Right? 5 qualities of the best coach you ever had. So if you say, man, I don't think I ever had a good coach, then write down the 5 qualities of your best teacher. 1 per sticky note. So 1 per sticky note, the 5 qualities of the best coach you ever had. Go ahead. I have a few extra sticky notes. You feel like you guys might need some more here, huh?
I never had it fully read. I took 1.
Does anyone need more? Everyone's good? So whatever you want, there's no wrong answers. He bought me beer is not a great answer. But go ahead. No, spelling doesn't count, nor does the pronunciation of the word literacy. No.
We have all the
Along those lines, supported.
All right, so I see some heads coming up. So as you're finishing up, here's what I'd like you to do. Again, so you should have 4 or 5 sticky notes with a word or phrase on them, or maybe passion, knowledge, caring, whatever it is, right? Here's what I'd like you to do. You're going to get up, and the quicker we can do this, the better, and the more orderly, the better. If your sticky note has to do with your coach's knowledge of the sport, the technique, the tactical part, stick it on that wall over there by like that door, right? If your sticky note has to do with your coach's ability to connect, this is the emotional intelligence, the connection piece, the caring, communication, stick it on that wall over there. Go ahead.
Everything's great?
That was more than what I made. I had it in the car. It's got 100%. I wish I would have known.
Want to see this all? Yeah, security.
All right. So as you're making your way back to your seat, do we notice a pattern emerging? Look at that. All right, hey, listen up for a sec. So, look at this. This room of people who have been around the game a long time, when we say what are the qualities of the best coach you ever had, look at the knowledge wall versus look at the connection wall. Right? It's not even close. I've done this all over the world with coaches in every sport, from golf to Aussie rules football to soccer, you know, from Barcelona, Spain to Perth, Australia to Thailand and everywhere in between. And it always looks the same. When we ask coaches, right, what are the qualities of your best coach? It's 90% the ability to connect. And yet when you go and do coaching education, where do you spend 98% of your time? On what wall? On that one. No, I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that that's not important, because the more you know, the more creative you can be, the better your sessions can be. But honestly, in this day and age, right, if you can spell the Google, like, you can find a lot of really good sessions. But can you deliver them? And can you connect? I remember watching Pep Guardiola train Bayern Munich when they played the All-Star game in Portland. And I'm just watching his training session. He doesn't have magic practices. He's just better than all of us at 6'3", right? I mean, that's just like God's honest truth, right? But his ability to connect with his players is incredible. How many of you didn't put any on that wall? Just show of hands, right? And is it because it didn't matter? No, it's just not what you remember, right? How many of you, I mean, some of you have probably been coaching a long time. How many of you have coached long enough to be invited to a former player's, like a life event, graduation, or maybe like a wedding, right? Look at that, there's a lot in this room, right? You get invited to a wedding and they were like, Coach, come to my wedding. You taught me the 4-3-3. Close. It was a 3-5-2 in his case, right? No. it's because of that wall. Because of fairness, it's because of caring, it's because of love, it's because of trust. It's because of all these qualities that ultimately we have to realize that kids don't care how much we know till they know how much we care. And when they know how much we care, then they'll run through a wall. And I make a point every time I speak to a high-level athlete about this. I remember talking to Tiffany Mildred about this, and I said, "Who's your best coach?" And she said, "Clive Charles, University of Portland." I said, "What was it about him?" "He loved me so much as a person, I would have done anything for him as a player." So as coaches, we have to realize that these are skills too. And we have to work hard, and we have to relentlessly connect in an authentic way. And when we do that, right, then we can impart our knowledge. And so learn that stuff. I mean, the more you know, that better. But you certainly probably get to a point as well where you can tweak all the stuff that you have, right, and just be better at communicating it, just be better at connecting with those kids. That makes the difference. And this is backed up by the research. Humanivistics research, again, asked these kids, well, what are these qualities of coaches? There's the top 5 things. Respect and encouragement, positive role model, clear communication, know what you're talking about, be a good listener. This is what they want, right? Understand kids, right? Connect with kids, and then you can teach them the game. But if all you do is come to teach them the game, right, and you don't coach the child, you just coach the sport, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. That was the title of our podcast this week. This guy, Dr. Martin Toms. Coach a child, not a sport. And when you realize that, man, then you really start reaching them. Okay? And then the third thing that doesn't change, again, kids have parents. Right? Kids have parents. Any Phillies fan? There's always someone from Philly. You've got to be a Phillies fan, right? Right? Sky and Bruce, that Lori mentioned, right? We have to stop using the bad parents as an excuse not to engage with the good ones. I told the staff today, I have a psychologist friend, Dr. Jim Taylor. He works a lot in the skiing world, but he has 30 years of working with Olympians and their families and their parents, because skiers a lot of times are really young when they go on the road. He said, in my experience, he goes, this is what I've realized in 30 years. He said, every parent I've ever worked with loves their kids. Almost every single one of them has loved their kid in an unhelpful way a few times. And a small percentage of them are mentally ill. And I can't help those ones, but we can help the others, right? And realistically, most of the parents are great, and we just have to help them out, right? Now, here's the thing, a lot of them understand in other aspects of their kid's life, like how I can help my kid, right? So I have 2 videos here, hopefully they'll play with some music. This first video is my daughter's first piano recital, right? She's like 7 years old, she just started playing piano. I want you to, when she makes a mistake, pay attention to what happens. So, she's just learning to play, right? She has a few little wobbles, a few mistakes. Was anyone like waiting for her piano teacher to yell at her? Yeah, you were. You set it up wrong. Right? But I think like if she did, you're like, what the hell is the piano teacher doing? Right? That totally makes sense. I mean, I've been to way too many concerts, orchestra concerts to count. I have yet to ever see a dad jump up and be like, the woodwinds are killing us tonight. Alright? So it totally makes sense to people. And then Saturday rolls around. And then we have a 6-year-old soccer game that looks something like this. Is everyone worried like you're on the video? This was filmed in Northern California. So if you've lived there, maybe you are. Half the kids have no idea this goes. And you guys are laughing, I don't think you heard at the end, the guy's filming said she's like a cheerleader on crack. Do you think she loves her kids? Yeah, very much so. Is she helping them? Go kick that ball. I think they got that part. Right? Now I always do, when I show this to parents, I'll do like the stroop test after for them and make them do it. But I speak to like 10,000 kids a year. When I ask the kids, what would you like their parents to say at your game? What do you think they say? Nothing. I've never had kids say anything but that. And the parents always know that too. And I've never ever had a kid go, God, it's so helpful when my dad yells at the ref. Right? And yet, right, you're going to go Saturday and what are you going to do? Yeah, you can cheer but don't coach. They don't need your help. It's not helpful. By the time you yell any instruction to the person on the ball, the moment's already too late anyway, right? So we have to help our parents. We have to engage with them. We have to teach them why this is not helpful. We have to teach them how to, help their kids, to cheer, to support, to leave them alone on the ride home. Things like that add interference. We have to teach them to strip it away. See, there's this thing in psychology called the fundamental attribution error, right? Our inclination to attribute people's behavior to the way they are instead of the culture or situation they're in. And I think this is a really, as a parent myself, this is a really hard world to raise kids. And I think a lot of parents are they're scared. They're afraid their kids are going to miss out. They're afraid their child's going to be left behind. They're on the B team. Their life is over at 9. Right? Right? But it's not the way they are. It's the world they live in. A friend of mine from high school, my senior year of high school, we won like a state championship. And at the end of the game, we were winning 1-0, and a big rival school were playing at the end. 10 seconds left. A kid on their team just walks over and headbutts some kid on our team in the face. And then there's a fight. Now, in 1989, this was on a VHS tape, right? It wasn't on social media. It wasn't on the nightly news. We still somehow have it today. Someone posted on Facebook the other day and we laughed at it and go, yeah, that was a great day, right? But what happens today? That's the lead story on the nightly news. And so parents are really, I think, protective of their kids because that goes on your permanent record like it never did before. And so we have to understand that that's not who they are, it's the situation they live in, and be understanding. And give them good information, and give them alternatives. And that really starts with one thing, and that's trust. We have to build trust as a club. We have to build trust as coaches. So my favorite trust story is about this guy. His name was the Great Blondin. He was a French tightrope walker. And he used to come in the 1800s, he used to tightrope walk across Niagara Falls in upstate New York. And 160 feet above the ground, he was this great showman, and 10,000 people would come and watch, and they're standing on the bridge behind him. And so one year he shows up with this cart. And he says, I'm the great Blondin. Who thinks I can walk across the falls, right? And everyone's cheering his name, like, Blondin, Blondin. He says, who thinks I can push this cart across the falls? Blondin, Blondin. He says, who wants to get in the cart? Nobody. Because trust is not just about our ability. Trust is not about that wall. It's not about where we played or how we can kick a ball or anything like that. Trust is about connection. Trust is about being believable. Trust is about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Trust is about admitting when we're wrong and that we're not perfect as well. Trust is about convincing parents that I see you, I see your kid. While at the same time telling them, hey, I have 16 players on my team. Your daughter, your son gets 1/16 of my attention. They get 16/16 of yours. So I can't see everything. So when you see something, please let me know. Trust is not about don't call, don't email, don't make eye contact. And I get this a lot, especially in Canada, especially in ice hockey. And they won't talk to parents. I'm like, how's that working for you? It's like, it's not. It's not working at all. So build trust with parents, right? Because they want to work with you. And I've worked in a lot of places and used soccer in, from Bend, Oregon, where I live now, to Ann Arbor, Michigan, to Burlington, Vermont, to North Carolina, to Colorado. And, I've had some of those crazy parents. But most of the parents I know are, I think in most parent groups, right, you get, let's say you have 16 families, right? You always have like a couple who are like the perfect parents, right? And it's usually like their fourth kid and they just don't care anymore. Right? And then you might have the one or two outliers at the end, but most people are in the middle, especially when it's their oldest child. And it's your job to bring them to the good side, to bring them to the light side, to teach them what's right, how they can help. And then you start to create an environment where the outliers on the other end, it's not comfortable to be a part of this anymore, right? But that's trust. Work with them. They are your allies. And there's no way that your team can be as good as it can be, that your players can be as good as it can be, if you're not an ally with their parent and working with their parents. To an extent. It doesn't mean we don't have boundaries. It doesn't mean we have to discuss the game 4 minutes after it ends. Right? But keeping people in the loop and good feedback, and sometimes just an email to a parent saying, hey, I noticed your daughter was struggling a bit today. Is everything okay? That tells that parent, man, my coach noticed that. I can't believe it. That's how we build trust. So, I'll finish with this, right? This can be a struggle. Continuing to keep the environment right, the right way. Continuing to work with parents, coaching a certain way. Right? Sometimes I think the struggle of coaching feels very much like this.
Back on the track.
for kids. It's not easy, it doesn't always go well, and we have to embrace the process, right? Great clubs, great teams, they're outcome aware, but they're purpose and process driven. Right? Our relationship with our parents can feel like that sometimes. It doesn't matter what you do, right? Don't be offended sometimes when you are really clear to your principles and your curriculum and what the club believes in, and someone doesn't buy in. That's okay. We can't all be vanilla, right? We have to believe in something. And everyone's going to get a complaint letter once in a while. I got one this fall. I coached 2 teams, 05 girls. Right? 05 girls, so middle school girls. And at the end of the season, I had to tell this mom to be quiet on the sideline. And the next day, she sent a complaint letter in all her great knowledge of soccer to the club director. And this is the best complaint letter I've ever gotten, because she wrote in the letter, all he does at practice is teach them how to play the game. Guilty as charged, right? So you will find those people, but persevere, right? And again, if you can just focus on why they play and make it enjoyable. If you can be a coach who's good at that wall and great at that wall, and if you can find those parents and you can engage them, man, oh man, you can really have a great experience. And this organization is well positioned to be not just a transactional club, but a transformational one. And so I want to help you continue on that journey, and I hope that you all will embrace this, because we need to make sports about the needs and the values and the priority of the kids, and keep looking at who's in front of me and making it about them. Okay? Thank you all so much. There's all my info, by the way. The club has it, but all that interesting stuff that we do. So if you want to email me, if you want to stalk, if you want to be like a Twitter troll, don't write it down. I won't acknowledge you then. All right, but there's the podcast too, Way of Champions. Okay, thank you. Lord, do you have anything else? Or?
You have books for sale if you want to buy.
Oh yeah, I got books. They're just at cost. They're $10. There's a vigorous black market. I'll sign it and sell it tomorrow for $11. All right, thank you guys. Thank you so much.